What is up? What is up, MMA fans? We are here today off UFC Fight Night 251, where a couple of 40-year-olds actually managed to shake off a couple wins here. And I thought to myself, this would be the perfect time to go through the short history of the UFC and figure out who are the unks and aunties that were successful and unsuccessful in the UFC post 40 years old. And I thought it'd be great to make a tier list out of all of them here today. And I got a pretty darn good list of fighters for us to examine through. So let's go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, the godfather of unks himself, Alexei Oleinik. So this is a great one to start out on. He is just an unk when he came into the UFC at 37 years old, I'm pretty sure. And after he got into the UFC, starting from 2017, my man had one, two, three, four, five, six, seven wins. All of those but one being by submission. My man Alexei Oleinik said, "I'm just built different." Now, a lot of the losses in between those coming from the likes of great names. Great names: Curtis Blades, Alistair Overeem, Derek Lewis, Sergey Spivak. Those are tough matchups for Alexei. But the fact that he could get out of those losses, probably went 50, pretty much went 50-50 on wins after 40, which is amazing, considering he had like 12 fights after that, maybe, and maybe more than that. And all of those but one being a finish. We're going to go ahead and put our man Alexei Oleinik into the A tier here. That is A for Alexei Oleinik. I think that's a pretty good way to start it out for our boys here. Next up, we got a legend of the game. We got Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva definitely had a tough time post 40 years old in the UFC, after breaking his leg against Chris Weidman and then losing in the rematch afterwards. He came back to fight Nick Diaz, and that ended in a no contest. A lot of people did not enjoy that fight. It had a lot of memes. It was a good time, but, sadly, not too eventful. Then, the fight after that, though, big contrast, fighting Michael Bisping. Everyone thought the fight was over at one point. As soon as Anderson Silva lands the flying knee, it keeps going, and then Michael Bisping ends up pulling out the unanimous decision win. Anderson still, you got to think, he put on an amazing performance against a future champ there. So I'm not upset about kind of pinning that in a positive light. Losing to Daniel Cormier in the yellow canvas at UFC 200, I believe it was. Yep. Beating Derek Brunson in a decision after that. Okay. Young Derek Brunson, when he's post 40, not bad. Going to a decision with Israel Adesanya. Okay, but then getting KO'd by Jared Cannonier with that leg injury being reintroduced and getting KO'd by Uriah Hall in the fourth round after that. Then going on to have a decent boxing career. So with that being said, this isn't terrible post 40. The Nick Diaz fight does make you lose a lot of stock. Daniel Cormier kind of manhandled him, and then he got KO'd in his last two fights. Got a win out of all that, so you can't put him in D or retire. I'm actually going to put him in the C tier. Because coming back from a leg injury like that and then becoming post 40 years old, that's pretty darn impressive in my opinion. So we're going to put him in a respectable C tier here. All right, not too bad, especially when you're going at middleweight and then one light heavyweight fight with Daniel Cormier. Next, we got another legend of the game. We have Andrei Arlovsky. All right, Andrei Arlovsky. My man pretty much led the way in terms of athletic heavyweights early on when he came in. And then later, and as soon as time went on, and he kind of hit that 40-year-old status, by 2019, my man did better actually than Alexei Oleinik. I think he had a pretty much a over 50% win rate after 40 if you add it up, So let me see. After he turned 40, you got a win against Ben Rothwell, lost by KO to Jairzinho Rosenstruik. I mean, not a bad loss at the time. W against Felipe Lins, W against Tanner Boser, lost against Tom Aspinall to submission, but that's when Andre Arlovski said to himself, I got beat by the future heavyweight GOAT. I need to make this win age very well. And then went on a 4-fight win streak against Chase Sherman, Carlos Felipe, Jared Vanderaa, and Jake Collier. Jake Collier, pretty good shout. Not a bad heavyweight. Probably out of all the unranked heavyweights, probably one of the better ones. But a 4-fight win streak post 40 years old, that's pretty darn good. And they're all by decision. And that's just a testament to how much Andre changed his game as he got older. But then you have to point this out. You can't just ignore this. Went on a 4-fight loss streak immediately after that, losing by submission to Marcus Rogerio de Lima by KO to Dontel Mays. Then a unanimous decision loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta, and a split decision to Martin Buday. Split decision to Martin Buday. He almost won that one, So kept himself safe in his last 2 fights and didn't get finished. So that's also respectable too. I think we're going to put Andre here at a... I want to put him at a so bad. Honestly, let me count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then those 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's over 50%. The win rate past 40. I'm putting him in the A tier. We're going to have to deal with it. Sorry, folks. All right, next we got Dan Henderson. So Dan Henderson, known for his just violent style, crazy ground and pound, great wrestling, was a force in multiple divisions. I'm pretty sure Olympian, or at least backup Olympian, one of the sorts. I can't remember exactly, but he turned 40 in 2010, coming off the Jake Shields title loss. That kind of sucked, but that was in Strikeforce. Then finishes out Strikeforce with 3 wins in a row post 40, all by KO. One of them being a title fight, one of them being against Fedor Emelianenko. By the way, I am only talking about UFC, but I do want to mention that being like at 41 years old, knocking out Fedor is pretty darn good in 2011. Then, as soon as he gets into the UFC, beating Shogun Hua at 41 years old. And that's a pretty amazing debut win in the UFC. Well, not debut win. He was in the UFC before that. He KO'd Michael Bisping and then went over to Strikeforce. Excuse me. But that was before he turned 40, so we can't count that. But that's a foreshadowing of things to come. After beating Mauricio Hua, though, 3 losses in a row. Lost to Lyoto Machida, lost to Rashad Evans. Both split decisions, so I'm not going to weigh him down too heavily. And then a KO loss to Vitor Belfort. And Dan Henderson thought to himself, okay, I'm just going to beat up Shogun again and KO Shogun. So he KOs Shogun in the 3rd round. Gets submitted by Daniel Cormier in a crazy fight. Like, Daniel just tossed his ass around a lot in that fight. Then gets KO'd by Gegard Mousasi. Not great. At this point, he's 45. Or 44 going on 45. KO's Tim Bosch. Then gets KO'd by Vitor again. This man is the king of repeating rematches. I tell you what. Then knocks out Hector Lombard. Then gets his title shot against Michael Bisping, which a lot of people thought Dan Henderson won, including himself. Very close decision, unanimous to Michael Bisping. With that being said, the fact that he came back into the UFC and immediately gets a win over Shogun and shakes off a few other wins here and there and puts up close to split decisions between Lyoto Machida and Rashad Evans. Close fight to the champ, Michael Bisping. Went between multiple weight classes. I'm going to actually put him in B tier because just of the dog nature, honestly. To keep coming back from KOs and TKOs like that, to then put on a close fight and a title fight, it's pretty impressive. So I'm going to give it to B tier for Dan Henderson. All right, up next, we got our man Frankie Edgar. Now, I do have a wide range of time spent at 40 years old, 40 plus years old in the UFC. Frankie Edgar, obviously not that long in 40, and kind of depressing as well, with his last fight before he left being against Chris Gutierrez, being knocked out by that knee, if I remember correctly. Turning 40 in 2021, first starting it out with I think it might have been 39 going on 40, but I'm still going to count it. Getting his knocked out by Corey Sandhagen with that flying knee, one of the most beautiful flying knees. And that was coming off whenever he had won that split decision against Pedro Munoz, and everyone thought Frankie found his division. And to be frank, he did, just really late in his career, sadly. Just remember, this is a former lightweight champ, 2 divisions up, and was a force at featherweight too. Lost to Corey Sandhagen by KO, lost to Marlon Vera by KO. A fight that he was winning and was going to win before that KO, mind you. I just wanted to keep that in mind so that way you guys can understand my rationale. And then gets KO'd by Chris Gutierrez. Now, the Corey Sandhagen knockout and the Chris Gutierrez knockout were so fast that you can hardly really rate Frankie post 40. The fact that I'm really just basing this off the fact he put on a good performance against Marlon Vera and was winning that fight up until the KO. So, no disrespect. D for no disrespect to Frankie Edgar. You know, he's a legend in the game, but we're talking post 40 strictly. UFC careers post 40. And for that, I have to put Frankie in the D tier, so I apologize. Next, we probably have our first UNC status rating. Glover Teixeira, our boy. All right, Glover Teixeira probably going to be our highest rating UNC status guy. Oldest man to win a UFC title. All right, that is insane. Turned 40 in 2019. And if you just keep going from the start of when he turned 40, starting in October, and we'll just go that same year in 2019. So that would be Carl Robertson, where he was 39 going on 40. Shakes off 3 wins in a row in 2019. Submission over Carl Robinson. Submission over Ion Kutalabe. Split decision over Nikita Krylov. Nikita Krylov win. Very nice. Beautiful. And then going into 2020, TKOs Anthony Smith in one of the nastiest beatdowns we've probably ever seen in the octagon, where Anthony Smith is literally handing his teeth to the ref or picking them up. I don't even know what he was doing with them at that point. Like, why would you even pick up your teeth? What is there to do with them? And then submitting Thiago Santos, and then submitting Jan Blachowicz for the title. That was a run of all runs in the light heavyweight division. This was a Thiago Santos who obviously was not the same man after all the leg injuries in the John Jones fight, but still a Thiago Santos that many feared. And Jan Blachowicz was also a force at the time, a bit of an unk himself. This is a run of all runs. And then putting a incredibly close competitive fight in the Yuri Prochazka fight, was probably going to win that before the submission, and then losing the unanimous decision to Jamal Hill. Went to decision with Jamal Hill at 40, what is this, 43? 44? 43, I think. My man is the epitome of the t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops, bringing the six-pack to the barbecue UNC status, all right? Glover Teixeira, UNC status, first one in there. Beautiful career. Next, we got Jan Blachowicz, the man he beat for the title. Jan also not an extensive 40-year-old career so far, but a short one, so we will examine it a little bit because he is a high-ranking contender. Turned 43 in 2023, only has the split decision loss to Alex Pereira. So where do you almost got to give him like a potential tier list rate. There's a few that's going to be like, this is your potential, and you could keep going up, all right? So with Jan Blachowicz at 40 years old, getting a split decision win over Alex Pereira, who was 35 at the time, much younger, and really kind of bringing his takedown defense game together and, survivability. Tough opponent. Dangerous opponent. Pereira was feared by many. So with that being said, I'm going to put Jan at a C tier for now. I think he has an opportunity whenever he comes back. If he gets a win, he automatically goes into that B tier if he gets that win. I can't remember who it was. I think Carlos Ulberg. Like a win over a young, surging Carlos Ulberg, that definitely puts you in B tier for me. So Jan definitely with room to grow. Next, we got Ruthless Robbie Lawler. Ruthless Robbie Lawler. Great shout. Let me see. Let me get his stats up real quick. Robbie Lawler turning 40 in 2022, retiring in 2023. At 39 years old, we'll just mention real quick with the win over Nick Diaz. And then going after that, getting TKO'd by Brian Barberena. Many did not expect that. Brian Barberena did not really go on to perform that well after that fight in his career. So that was super surprising. Honestly, I bet to a lot of people. But Robbie Lawler, legend of the game, after that, gets his matchup with Nico Price, finishes it in 38 seconds with a beautiful clinch uppercut that just turns the lights out immediately. Gets one of the best retirement packages, like send-offs that I've ever seen. Honestly, just for the aura of it and the insanity of the final one, that is so good. Man, does he get a... I don't know. Getting knocked out by Brian Barberena is pretty wild. This is a tough one. Because he only has 2, and he's done. He's retired. The knockout in retirement was pretty badass, though. Nah, I can't. I gotta be fair. I gotta put him in C tier. Gotta put him in C tier. We gotta be fair. All right, it was a win over Nico Price, which is like, okay. And then getting knocked out by Brian Barberena. I gotta be fair. I gotta be objective. We're putting him in C tier, okay? Next, we got Jared Cannonier, our most recent Unk win. All right, Jared Cannonier he's an anomaly, okay? He is a freak athlete, chiseled, godlike figure. Started at heavyweight, came down, turned 40 in 2024, actually, very recently, and started out rough, okay? Lost to Nasruddin Imavov by KO TKO. We now know that was an early stoppage, and Jared Cannonier was going to win that fight. Probably. I'm just assuming. If that fight would have kept going. Okay? On the scorecards, at least. You have to take that into account. Because he landed a massive shot before that fight was stopped. It was good. But then gets handled readily by Cal Borjayo, which goes to show how good is Cal Borjayo. Cal Borjayo is on a... I mean, that win is going to age amazingly for Cal. Like, these aren't bad people to lose to, and that's only going to elevate you. Because Nasruddin Imavov just knocked out Israel Adesanya, a guy that dominated Jared, technically in their fight. And then KO's Gregory Rodriguez in the 4th round after going through an insane storm in the 1st round. You got to put Jared at a minimum B tier. Minimum B tier, okay? With what he's done already so far. Like, this is incredibly impressive stuff. And if he gets another ranked win, bro, automatic A tier. You get another ranked win at middleweight? This isn't like heavyweight, The only reason these two get A tiers is because they stayed so long at that weight class and got so many wins. If Jared gets one more ranked win at middleweight post 40 years old, dude, you get an A tier easily. All right. Next, we got Yoel Romero. Okay, Yoel Romero. Also a guy who came in, I think, pretty late in his career into the UFC. Turning 40 in 2017. Okay. And tons of fights between then and then. First one at 40, maybe 39 going on 40. Lost title fight to Robert Whittaker in one of the most insane fights. I mean, come on. We all saw that fight. That was absolutely nuts. Nuts. Crazy fight. Lost that one by unanimous decision. Goes on to knock out Luke Rockhold. Okay. Another insane win. All right. Then goes on to lose to Robert Whittaker. Again, split decision. Many people thought that could have went either way. All right. Puts on an insane fight. It might have been fight of the night against Paulo Costa. Okay, where he ate one of the most insane flush head kicks that I've ever seen in my life. Okay, loses one of the most boring fights ever to Israel Adesanya. Skip. Loses, and then after that actually gets released from the UFC. So that was his last fight in the UFC. That is all technically I can grade on. I cannot grade his Bellator. This is only UFC. Okay, I don't care that he fought Thiago Santos later on. Okay, this is only UFC. So since he turned 40, we have a loss in a title fight. That was close. We have a win against Luke Rockhold. We have 4 losses in a row. 2 of them, I think only one of them actually being title fights because weight miss or something. And almost beat Robert Whittaker. Was really competitive against Costa. Terrible fight against Adesanya. Lost to Phil Davis. Y'all, Yoel Romero doesn't go above C tier. He doesn't go above C tier. He knocked out Luke Rockhold, which is an amazing win. That's a great win. KOing Luke Rockhold. You got to get that. You got to take that into consideration. He can't go into D. You just can't. And a lot of these losses are also incredibly close, and he did not get you can't finish Yoel Romero, is what it seems at least. Okay, and you have to take that into account. So I'm putting him in C tier. Not enough to earn B. Definitely not enough to earn B in my opinion. Just because of all the 4 straight losses after the Rockhold KO. That's just how it is for me. Next, we got our first female fighter making a representation here, Jessica Penne. Jessica Penne, pretty decent career resurgence when she got back going. Let me see. I just got to get the stats up real quick. I got so many of these people up. Decent little run when she got back. Turned 40 in 2023. Okay. At 39, like late 39, 38, she was getting a couple wins against Lupi Godinez and Karolina Kovalkiewicz. But we are only judging off post 40, like 39 going on 40, like that same year you turned 40 pretty much. And it's a loss to Tabitha Ritchie by submission. It's a loss to Elise Reed by unanimous decision. And before that, a loss to Emily Ducote at 39 years old. So this is going to be our first one. This is going to be our first one. I'm sorry. And I think she did retire. So, I think that Elise Reed fight might have been her retirement fight. If not, no comment. Next, we have Ovent St. Preux, another man who has fought pretty much everybody. This man has fought so many legends throughout his career. And has, you know how he's going to fight when he goes in there. He's going to be a southpaw. He's going to wait a bit. He's going to try and counter you. And he could land a massive shot at any point. He turned 40 in 2023. Had a few fights, KO loss to Felipe Lins. Split decision win to Kennedy Nzechukwu. And a L to Ryan Spann by submission. Now, Ryan Spann lost by submission in the first round. Ryan Spann is a finished or B-finished fighter, so it's not a great loss. It's not a great win if he got. I mean, it would be a great win if it was OSP getting the win, but Ryan Spann knocking out or submitting OSP isn't really something you should be writing home about. Felipe Lins losing by him to KO TKO is in 49 seconds of the first round. That's rough, but beating Kennedy Nzechukwu, who is now ranked at heavyweight and has been doing incredibly well recently. That's a great aged win. So you're going to get bonus points for that. But it was a split decision win. And the fact that it's Kennedy Nzechukwu and succeeding at heavyweight, where the skills aren't as prevalent, it just shows to me that OSP should have went to heavyweight way. There's a ton of light heavyweights that should have went to heavyweight way long ago. There's way more than you think. Okay? The only reason Johnny Walker is not at heavyweight is because his brother is there. I've realized this now. It's like, why isn't Johnny Walker just knocking out heavyweights. It's because his brother's there now. So I understand it at this point. I'm a little upset about it, but I understand it. OSP, though, he's going to go in the D tier for me. Split decision win isn't going to do too much for me. So, yeah, it's a tough one for OSP. He's going to have to go in the D tier. Hasn't fought since. Yeah, tough one for him. Next, we got Frank Shamrock, our boy Frank Shamrock here. My man had in his picture on when you look it up on Google and like who he fought in the past and the tiny little circle picture, he's got still got his like shirt, button up shirt on and everything. He's looking fancy in his. Let me see. Let me get the excuse me. I said Frank Ken Shamrock. I'm so sorry. Turned 40 in 2004. All right. 2004. We're going old school for this one. We got a few oldies. In here. Okay, 2004. Starting there, we got a win against Kimo Leopoldo by KO TKO. This is where it gets rough, though. Lost by KO to Rich Franklin. Lost by KO to Kazushi Sakuraba. 2 KO losses in a row to Tito Ortiz. Lost to Robert Berry by KO. Wins against Ross. Oh, wait, no. That Robert Berry KO was not in the UFC. So it ended with him getting 1 win by KO to Kimo Leopoldo and then 4 KO losses in a row. 2 really good guys at the time. Rich Franklin, Sakuraba, and Tito Ortiz back-to-back. Those are not... You can't, like, be like, oh, well, he lost to Cans. No, not at the time. Okay? And before that KO against Kimo, he had actually lost title fight against Tito Ortiz as well. So, man, knocked out by Tito Ortiz 3 times. Gotta be rough knowing what it's like nowadays for Tito Ortiz. But our boy Ken Shamrock, we're gonna have to put him. Oh my God, that's so many KO losses. I want to put him in retire for post 40, but he has 1 win. It's hard to put him in retire when they got 1 win. But 4 KO losses is crazy, dude. That's so bad. And they're all in the first round. Nah, I gotta put him in retire. All of those are in the first round. That's insane. You can't lose 4 KOs in the first round, even with a win. Because I have no clue who Kimo Leopoldo is, to be honest. I know that's gonna make me sound like a casual. I have no clue who that is. I know who all the people that KO'd him is. I don't know who that is. So I'm gonna have to say retire, please. I feel mean. Oh, I'm so sorry, Ken. I can't believe I said Frank. My God. Okay, Antonio Nogueira is up next. Another oldie here. So let me get his stuff up. Beep, 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 beep. So Antonio Nogueira turned 40 in 2016. Okay. Actually, oh shit. Never mind. Nogueira's not going to be a part of this. He left right when he turned 39. Sorry, Nogueira. You don't get to be a part of this. Psych. Cub Swanson up next. Yeah, you thought you were an unk, Nogueira. Psych. Our real boy unk right here. Cub Swanson turning 40 in the old 2023 late in the game. How did it go for him, you say? Pretty okay, actually. Not bad at all. Okay, 3 wins since he's turning 40. A W decision unanimous to Akeem Dawodu. Split decision loss to Andre Fili. That was a super close fight. That could have went either way. Andre Fili, I think, 32 years old. All right. And then a KO TKO, Billy Quarantillo, to top it all off for the retirement. My man, Cub Swanson, bro, he gets beats. Nah, they're not ranked wins. They're not ranked. He gets beats here. All right, 3 wins. One of them, the split decision loss, could have went to him. So that could have been 3 wins post 40. But 2 out of 3 post 40, you get a B tier for that. You definitely get a B tier for that. Cub Swanson, also the skills at the age that he's at, the speed and power he still has at the age he's at, bro, very impressive. Very impressive. Definitely belongs in this B tier range, in my opinion. Next, we got the freak of nature, Mark Coleman. Mark Coleman is... He's an anomaly. I hear how he talks. He's like in his, I think he's 60 now. I hear he talks about how he takes care of his body now. Now he's gotten sober and everything. It's so cool. Turned 40 in 2004. starting from there, was actually turned 40 at the start of his in the middle of Pride, actually. So just to give you some context, before he even got into the UFC, lost in Pride to submission to Fedor, got KO'd by Crow Cobb, submitted Milko Vorn, KO'd Mauricio Hua, okay, but then got submitted again by Fedor. So that was all Pride and Bushido before he got into the UFC. Gets into the UFC at 45 years old. All right, and that's going to play into how difficult your run was to get there at the time. Like the harder it was for you and the better you did, you might get a little bump up in the tier. At the start of it, loses by KO TKO to Shogun. All right, it's Shogun at the time in 2009. That's a pretty tough loss. Okay, beats Stephan Bonner in 2009 by unanimous decision. Not a bad win. And then loses by submission to Randy Couture. Again, not a bad person to lose to. I think Randy Couture might have been in his 40s at that point too. So Unk's fighting Unks at this point. 1 win out of 3 in the UFC at starting at 45. I don't want to put him in D because compared to OSP and who he was losing to, I don't think those are the same level losses to have. Like who OSP was losing to compared to who Mark Coleman was losing to comparatively at the time. Those are a little tougher. That's like tougher competition for me. So I'm going to put Mark Coleman in C tier. He gets to go in C tier, actually. So good for Mark Coleman. Very cool dude. Cool personality. C tier, my man. Next is the immortal Matt Brown. Matt Brown, my man. Turned 40 in 2021. What a dog. I don't know if he still has the KO, TKO record or finish record, whatever it was. May have been finished, or it may have been KO, TKO, and Derek Lewis took it back or something. Like I said, turned 41 in 2021. Had 4 fights since 2021. Unanimous decision loss to Carlos Condit. Unk versus Unk there. That was a good fight. Diego Lima, KO TKO. That's a good win. Okay. Not a bad win at all to get a win over a Lima. Lost to Brian Barberena in a split decision. What was Brian Barberena doing to these guys? Why is he the Unk Slayer, bro? I should have put I needed to look up Brian Barberena's age. I don't know if he's 40 or not. I don't think he is. Also, him and Robbie Lawler both lost to Brian Barberena. That's crazy. But it's a split decision, so it was close. Probably could have went either way. Then KO's TKO's Court McGee in his retirement fight. And it was beautiful. It was very Robbie Lawler-esque, honestly, the way he finished out, which I really, really like here. And so 2 out of 4, and those 2 wins being KO's, TKO's against one being an Unk, Diego Lima, kind of older, not too much older. I'm going to put Matt Brown, and also for the records he's achieved and all that, I want to put him above Robbie, honestly. And how old is Brian Barberena actually? 35, dude. That's insane. How is he 35? What? It's only a split decision loss. He could have, man, if he would have beat Brian, that would have been easy B tier. But I have to be fair. I'm actually going to put him at the top of C tier. He's the king of C tier. All right. If he would have won that split decision against Brian Barberena or beat Carlos Condit, one of those would have flipped. He would have been B tier for me. So good one by my boy Matt Brown. Next we got Mauricio Shogun Hua. All right. He's been mentioned throughout this list a few times. Also turned 40 in 2021. Did not have the same results. Only 2 fights post 40. Split decision loss to OSP. KO TKO to Ihor Pateria. Now, I cannot put Shogun above OSP. I can't. He is going into the retire, please. This was probably one of the hardest post 40 careers to watch. No disrespect to Shogun. He's a legend. He's fought everyone. He has fought everyone, okay? Shogun is a legend of the game, deserves all the respect, but the post 40 career is in the retire please category. I'm so sorry, Shogun. I hope GFL serves you well. I hope you get decent matchups and nothing that's going to kill you. Man, I don't like it, though. I don't like it. Next, we got a real good one here. Jim Miller. Oh, man. One of the pioneers, okay? I don't know where I'm going to put my boy Jim Miller here. Let me see. We got post 40 starting in 2023, okay? My man was busy starting in February 18th of 2023. Unanimous decision loss to Alexander Hernandez, a guy who had been bouncing from featherweight to lightweight at the time, trying to figure out where his weight class was. Finally got a decision win. Alexander Hernandez did. But, you know, he should be winning that fight, really, okay? So, first one started out a loss, but back-to-back finishes for Jim Miller after that, KOing Jesse Butler and then submitting Gabriel Benitez right after that. Jesse Butler, only 32 years old, and then Gabriel Benitez, 36 years old. So you got my boy knocking out some young men. Nah, Gabriel Benitez isn't that young. He was like 35 at the time. Losing by unanimous decision to Bobby Green at UFC 300. Okay, not a bad loss. He was ranked at the time, I'm pretty sure. And then submitting Damon Jackson in the first round after that. And Damon Jackson is not easy to submit. Okay, that was a very, very good win for my boy Jim Miller. So 3 out of 5, man, that's a good one. And Jim Miller also with the records, being at UFC 100, 200, 300. Just for the aura, bro, he gets a B tier. All right, he gets a B tier for sure. I'm even tempted to go A tier for him. If he gets one more win in his next fight, if Jim Miller wins in his next fight, he gets A tier, because that's an amazing career to have. You know, post 40, being in all the events he's been, being as active as he's been. 3 fights in 2024 at 40 years old, and you won 2 of them, dude. That's amazing. That's amazing. He's actually at the head of B tier for me. We're gonna put him at the head of B tier. Post 40. It's also because of the weight class. I know you're thinking like Jared Cannonier has better wins at post 40, but you got to think Jim Miller is also fighting at lightweight. Lightweight is insane to be at over 40 at and getting wins. So Jim Miller gets top of B tier for sure. Holly Holmes is our next one. The Preacher's Daughter. I think that's her nickname, right? Yep, the Preacher's Daughter. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a pretty mixed bag, actually, for Holly Holmes. Turning 40 in 2021, and starting from 2021, took a 2021 off, actually, because she was coming off back-to-back decision wins against Raquel Pennington and Irene Aldana, and then took just 2021 off, which is crazy. Might have been injured, could have been something, who knows. Comes back and loses a split decision to Ketlin Vieira. I remember that being a robbery. I remember that being highway robbery, actually. I do remember that. People were pretty upset about it. I remember Holly Holm was pretty upset about that. So we're starting off, you know, a very close fight to a 30-year-old at the time. 31-year-old, okay. And Holly Holm is fighting at 40. So that's pretty okay. Unanimous decision against Yana Kunitskaya, okay, loses, it's a no contest now, but lost by submission to Mayra Bueno Silva. It was overturned because of the pop test, and then loses by submission to Kayla Harrison following that, then goes to the GFL. This is a tough one, okay, because this is a close split decision loss to Ketlin Vieira, and then she won against Yana Santos. Do I weigh the fact that Mayra Bueno Silva popped? Mayra Bueno Silva looked so bad in her last fight, though. Man, maybe that pop test did mean something then. Alright, with that being said, Holly Holm puts in work. She's evolved her game over time. I'm putting her in C tier. It may have been boring, but she's like bottom of C tier for me. Yeah, bottom of C tier for me. It's tough, because I really feel like she could still win at bantamweight right now. There's plenty of people I think she could beat, but we haven't seen her since the Kayla Harrison loss, and that was such a brutal fight because Kayla Harrison is such a beast and terrible matchup for her. So bottom of C tier for me. Yeah, bottom of C tier. I was about to change it, but yeah. All right, next we got Steven Wonderboy Thompson. Another, you couldn't even tell this guy's an unk. He ages amazingly. So we got our boy Steven Wonderboy Thompson. At 42 at the moment, turned 40 in 2023, only having 2 fights before. See, if he would have beat Kevin Holland at 40 instead of 39 in 2022, I would put that into this, but I can't put the Kevin Holland win into this. So you're gonna be upset at me. But I have to put Steven Thompson. I have to put him at the top of D tier for now. He's still fighting, okay? I have to put him at the top of D tier for now. Because he got submitted by Shavkat in round 2. And then he got KO'd by... No, because he was doing good against Buckley. He was doing good against Buckley before the KO, okay? So I'm going to put him at the bottom of D tier, actually. He has no wins at post 40. I have to be fair. He has no wins post 40. Okay? And he got finished both times. I got to be fair and objective. Okay? He looked good in the Joaquin Buckley. The fact that these two are at the top of the division now is giving him a little bit of leeway. Okay? And this is a tough division to be over 40 in. 170 is a really bad division to be over 40 in. So I'm gonna put him in bottom of C tier for now. I know it's gonna upset a ton of people, but it is what it is. Now, next we got Damian Maia. Damian Maia, great one to have in this list. All right, currently 47, turned 40 in 2017. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so starting in 2017. Split decision win over Jorge Masvidal at 40. That's what we're starting off with. 2017 Masvidal, that's a great win. That is a great win. I think that's when Masvidal had to do that switch in his mind to kind of figure out what he's doing with his life. After that, loses in a title fight to Tyron Woodley. Okay, you're at 40 years old. Loses to Colby Covington. Loses to Kamaru Usman. Loses to, at the time, the top 3 people. Literally, those are the top 3 at that time. Those are the best 3 people in the welterweight division. It's Kamaru Usman, it's Colby Covington, it's Tyron Woodley. Those are his losses at post 40. Gets a submission win over Lyman Good. They'd say, all right, we need to step you back, okay? You fought the best 3 fighters in the UFC and the welterweight division at the time, and then we're gonna take you back, okay? He submits Lyman Good. Wins a majority decision against Anthony Rocco Martin. Submits Ben Askren. Okay, 3 wins in a row. And he's 42 at this point. Okay? Gets KO'd by Gilbert Burns. Loses a unanimous decision loss. Or loses by unanimous decision to Bilal Muhammad. Think about who I just said he lost to. Tyron Woodley, former champ. Colby Covington, former interim champ. Kamaru Usman, former champ, probably second best welterweight of all time. Gilbert Burns, title challenger, top contender. Bilal Muhammad, current champ. All right, Damian Maia is going in B tier. Okay, no, because he beat Jorge Masvidal too, and he submitted Ben Askren. Like and that just makes me happy. I'm not saying that as like a positive thing. That just makes me happy that he submitted Ben Askren. Oh, and he went to decision with those guys, like with Tyron, Colby, and Kamaru after 40. He went to decision. He didn't get finished by those guys. That's crazy. And didn't get finished by Bilal, which is normal. Bro, people are going to be upset at this. I'm putting him at the bottom of A tier. Damian Maia has got some crazy post 40, like, it's just a weird, like, post 40 record here. And I'm pretty sure he was upset about the Gilbert Burns stoppage too. Like, he didn't think that Gilbert Burns fight should have been stopped. He thought it could have kept going. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, you know. It was a mean left hook, if I remember correctly, like a left overhand, if I remember correctly, from Gilbert that knocked out Damia. People are gonna be upset about this, but dude, you got to look at who he was losing to and how he was losing. Like, that's an A status for me. So he gets A. Next, we got the Carpenter, Clay Guida. Okay, Clay Guida, my man, 43 years old now, 40 in 2021. It was rough. It was rough for my man Clay. Starting out, actually not so bad now that I'm looking back at it. Starting out in 2021, win over Michael Johnson, unanimous decision. Michael Johnson was much younger at the time. Michael Johnson, 38 now, 2021, he would have been 34. That's pretty good at the time considering Clay Guida was 40. So unanimous win for Clay. Loses to Mark Madsen by split decision, which Mark Madsen was also kind of an unk at the time. He's 40 now. He was 37 at the time. So loses to an unk himself by split decision. But that was like grappler on grappler, and Mark Madsen's Olympic level. So it was probably always going to go to him. Submits Leonardo Santos. Gets a finish after 40. Gets submitted by Claudio Puelos. Wins a split decision against Scott Holtzman. Goes on a 3-fight losing streak and then gets kicked out of the UFC. Loses to Rafa Garcia, Joaquin Silva, and then submitted by Chase Hooper. Some good wins here, okay? And didn't get finished in all of his losses, but submitted in all of his finishes that he got, or in the fights that he got finished in. And Michael Johnson's a pretty good win. Having 3 wins post 40 out of 8 is still pretty darn good. Yeah, I'm going to put Clay Guida, and especially with the skill set he had, the fact that he was able to be as successful as he was with that slow, not a low skill set, but not like as wide of a skill range as everyone else. I'm actually going to put him at the... He is above Steven Thompson technically. Yeah, he is above Steven in the C tier. Steven's got to get 1 win to get out of a C tier. Look, if he gets 1 win, he's up in like top of C tier and B tier territory because he lost to Amazing. I know people are going to be upset about that Steven Thompson ranking. I know people are going to be upset about it. But it's fine. Next, we got Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt, another old school name here. Turned 40 in 2014. Okay. And then starting in 2014, beats Roy Nelson by KO TKO, loses the title fight to Fabricio Verdun by KO, gets knocked out by Stipe Miocic. So post 40, you get a win, then get knocked out twice, but you're losing to the champs. You're losing to Fabricio, you're losing to Stipe. Okay, not bad. Beats Antonio Silva by KO, beats Frank Mir by KO. Okay, some good wins. No contest to Brock Lesnar. I'm not even going to count the Brock Lesnar one because Mark Hunt deserves more respect than that. Loses by KO to Alistair Overeem. KO's Derek Lewis, the knockout king. Okay. Loses to Curtis Blaydes by decision. Loses to Unk extraordinaire Alexei Oleinik. Then loses to Justin Willis by unanimous decision. Some good wins here, actually. Roy Nelson, Antonio Silva, Frank Mir, Derek Lewis. And lost to... The only weird loss is like Justin Willis. All these other losses are like really good guys. I'm actually going to put Mark Hunt. Knocking out Derek Lewis and Frank Mir. It's pretty darn cool. How old is Frank Mir now? Frank Mir's not that old. He only turned 40 in 2019. Frank Mir was under 40 when he got knocked out by him. He was 37. Dang, son. Am I gonna put Mark Hunt in B tier? I'm gonna put Mark Hunt at the bottom of B tier. These are great wins. And these are not bad people to lose to. So, not great wins, excuse me. They're not like the most amazing. 2 of them are great wins. 2 of them are okay wins, but the losses are like to amazing fighters. So we're gonna put Mark Hunt bottom of B tier. All right, just because of that competition. Next, we got Fabricio Verdum. Speaking of losing to champions, Fabricio Verdum post 40 UFC career, 47 now. He's 47 and still fighting, guys. He's gonna get to 50 and still be fighting. I swear to God, he will. Turned 40 in 2017. All right. So what we got since 2017, lost by majority decision. So super close fight to Alistair Overeem. Submits Walt Harris. Submits or beats Marcin Tybura in a unanimous decision. Gets KO'd by Alexander Volkov. Loses again to the Unk extraordinaire Alexei Oleinik. Alexei Oleinik is like, he's in the best spot on this tier list. I'm so proud of that one. And then submits Alexander Gustafsson in 2020. Okay. And then he submitted, this isn't UFC, but he submitted Renan Ferreira in PFL. That it was turned to a no contest because everyone could see he tapped. So the fight was BS. But this is great post 40. This is really good post 40. It's kind of insane actually. So yeah, I'm gonna put like submitting Alexander Gustafsson at 40 something, 43, 42 years old is crazy. It's not as, I think Mark Hunt's is just a little bit more impressive for some reason. I just think it's a little bit more impressive. I'm actually gonna put them like even with each other. Like I'm putting them just slightly above Mark. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Next female fighter we got in here, Angela Overkill Hill, another auntie who won this past weekend with Jared Cannonier. Pretty awesome to see. It was so crazy. When I first started watching UFC, I became a fan of Angela Hill whenever she was getting wins back in 2019, but then in 2020, but then was just going on and off. Like, and I realized at the time, I realize now, like she was just hardcore developing that part of her skill set that she didn't have in the grappling, because she was always a great striker, but she was focusing so much on the training of becoming a well-rounded fighter that it made it hard for her to win fights because she was trying to catch up. But post 40 years old, turned 40 in 2025 this year, gets the win over Ketlin Souza, who Ketlin Souza was a surging contender, 30 years old, young, mean, all right, aggressive, okay? This is a great win. I'm actually going to put her, especially with everyone she's 3 out of 4 in her last 4. Not that all of those were at 40 years old. I'm going to put her in C tier with room to grow. I think she could even come back into the top 10 in her division still. If she keeps up the way she's keeping up, I could see her back in the top 10. So we're going to put her in C for now and see what happens. Okay, next up, another female fighter, Marion Hanau. This one, turned 40 in 2017, 47 years old now, and it's not good. It's not good. It's not terrible starting out. Draw to Bethe Correa. KO. Okay, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Okay. KOs Talita Bernardo and submits Sarah McMahon. So not bad actually starting off at 40, but then rattles off 5 losses in a row to good fighters. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, these aren't bad fighters to lose to. So, and they're only 4, and 4 of them are unanimous decision. 1 of them's a KO, so didn't get finished in 4 of them. Lost to Kat Zincano, Yana Kunitskaya, Yana Santos, Raquel Pennington, Macy Sasson, and Misha Tate. Those aren't bad to lose to. Maybe Misha Tate for 2021. That's a weird one. Yeah, I'm going to put her in D tier. Not quite enough to get into the retire, please, just because Jessica just turned 40 before she started going on a skid. But she did get 2 finishes and a draw right when she turned 40. So that's 3 non-losses post 40. So you can't put her in retire, please. I'm going to put her in D tier. In fact, nah, I'm not going to put her above. She's got more wins than OSP. In fact, why is Frankie at the top? It's because it was at the top of the division. But so was Marion. So I'm going to put her, and yeah, this makes sense, I think, more so for post 40. Post 40. Remember, this is post 40. Okay? Last but not least, man. Randy Couture. Y'all are probably thinking, where the fuck is Randy Couture? Where does Randy Couture fit in all this? Turned 40 in 2003, y'all. 2003. Okay? Retired in the UFC. Okay? Since 2003. KO's Chuck Liddell. Title fight. Beats Tito Ortiz in a decision win. Title fight. Loses by doctor stoppage to Vitor Belfort. Title fight. Wins via doctor stoppage against Vitor Belfort in a title fight. Loses to Chuck Liddell by KO in a title. Submits Mike Van Arsdale. Loses to Chuck Liddell, KO in a title fight. Wins against Tim Sylvia in a title fight, unanimous decision. Wins against Gabriel Gonzaga in a title fight. Loses to Brock Lesnar by KO. He was way smaller. You got to think this is a double champ, okay? Randy Couture. Decision unanimous loss to Antonio Nogueira. 3 wins in a row. Okay, he is 46 at this point. Brandon Vera, Mark Coleman, James Toney. 2 of those were finishes. Then gets KO'd by Lyoto Machida in 2011 to retire. He's in UNC status. Our boy Randy Couture gets UNC status, okay? He gets put all the way at the tippy top here. UNC status, Randy Couture. That is the tier list, folks. I think we got a pretty solid list here. The B and C tiers, I think, are going to make people angry. Probably going to be a little bit of contention there, but this is the list. I've obviously missed probably a couple here and there. I know Vince Pichel was in there. I know there's a couple that I'm missing, but not everyone's going to get in on this list. It's got to end eventually. But this is my tier list. Let me know what you guys think I got right, what you guys think I got wrong. Who do you think I'm missing? Who should have been in this list? I think this is a pretty awesome list here. So tell me what you guys think. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I'll catch you next time.